moderator for this afternoon's press briefing on Hurricane Beryl. We'll begin this evening with prayer from the Honorable Premier.
Thank you, Dominic. Shall we pray? Almighty God, we thank you for this opportunity that we can come to our nation, Lord, through the conduits of our partners in social media and our journalists, Lord, to convey various messages that we deem that are relevant at this particular time in the development of the system that is approaching us, Lord, as we come to you. Remember our brothers and sisters in the Eastern Caribbean that have already been impacted by Hurricane Beryl, and indeed our brothers and sisters in Jamaica that are currently under the onslaught and feeling the severe impacts, Lord, of Beryl. Lord, as we are here in the Cayman Islands, we know that there are perhaps a range of emotions, Lord. We pray that yours would remind and convey the confidence, Lord, that you have founded us upon the seas and that you've brought us through many, many storms, many, many hurricanes before. And Lord, we thank you that long before we call, you've been able to answer. Lord, we thank you that we're still a country that we can proclaim the name of Jesus. Like Paul the Apostle, we are not ashamed to proclaim it because we know from whence we came and from whence we can stand for you to deliver your promises. Lord, we pray that you'd be with all of our uniform branches as they prepare, all of the senior staff at the this building. They have been preparing, Lord, to take us through this storm and to get the messages out. And Lord, we pray that as the storm passes by, because it will pass by, that we will be a stronger, more resilient country, and that we will learn to operate, Lord, as we have been known to do, where we reach out our hands in times of difficulty, times of good time, and operate on a brotherly principle. Lord, we just pray now that you take this press conference into your most capable hands, guide and direct. Give us a new infusion of wisdom, knowledge, and understanding that your name can be exalted. We ask these with anticipated blessings and your mercies. In Jesus' name of thanksgiving, amen.
Amen.
Amen, and thank you, Premier O'Connor Connolly. Joining us on today's panel are Her Excellency, the Governor, Jane Owen, Premier, the Honourable Juliana O'Connor Connolly, Leader of the Opposition, the Honourable Roy McTaggart, Deputy Premier, the Honourable Andre Ebanks, Minister of Tourism and Ports, the Honourable Kenneth Bryan, and Minister of Health and Wellness and Home Affairs, the Honourable Sabrina Turner. Also joining us in studio are senior civil servants, as well as the Commissioner of Police, Mr. Kurt Walton, and members of the media, some of whom are also joining us via Zoom. Welcome to everyone. First, we go to Her Excellency.
Thank you very much, and it's very good to be able to say hello to everybody and also convey my really sincere wishes that you're all well prepared and that everybody is feeling calm and is ready for the impending storm. For me, this is the first really major hurricane that has come our way since I arrived here on the islands just over a year ago. So it has been an important journey for me as well, individually, to learn about how best to prepare and also to work with colleagues, Honourable Premier, the Cabinet, Leader of Opposition, and everybody else who's been involved in the executive decision-making and briefings that we've been having on a very regular basis over coming days. So it is a partnership. I think we are well prepared. I've been really impressed by the amount of resilience and resourcefulness that I've seen among all the people of Cayman, all three islands, and especially the kindness and the caring that's been reached out to others. And I can see that in action when I'm seeing what my colleagues across Cabinet have been doing to go out into the community. And I know everyone has been trying to look out for each other. The same goes for the support from the UK. We've been having daily briefings with my colleagues in the government in London. We've got an election tomorrow, as you may have picked up. But nevertheless, the whole civil service machine in the UK continues to operate. We have a ship in the region which is currently on its way here, so it will be standing by, and we will be able to provide further specialist resource through different teams as and when necessary. So we're focusing obviously on our preparation, which I think is of a very high standard, but we're also starting to think about what we all do to support you and to support each other after the storm passes. So we're looking at the whole range of ways in which we can support each other, and it's a great partnership for which I'm really grateful. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Your Excellency. We now go to our Honorable Premier.
Thank you, Donna. Donna, if I could just change it slightly, I did invite the Honorable Leader of the Opposition to be here with us, and I'm very grateful that he graced us with his presence in a time of natural disaster. There's no space or room for politics, but he does have constituency matters that he needs to attend to, so I will give way to him to say whatever he has, and then if there are questions for Leader of Opposition, I'm not inviting questions for him, if we could release him that he could get back to his constituency duties, and then we'll revert to your program. Thank you kindly.
And thank you too, Premier. That's very kind of you. And good afternoon to everyone. A special good afternoon to all the constituents and all the people in the Cayman Islands. The last 3 days have been very hectic by any stretch of the imagination, and I have attended a number of meetings here with the Premier and other members of the government, as well as the senior civil servants as well, with regard to the preparations for the onset of and arrival of Hurricane Beryl. I am really satisfied and pleased with the organization that has taken place, and that has become quite visible throughout the 3 days as we continue to prepare for Hurricane Beryl. I am impressed as well, and I would say with regard to the response of the people of the Cayman Islands, who have truly taken this seriously. I think we were very fortunate, and we have been fortunate, that we had Monday as a public holiday, because that really has given us the opportunity to get an early start on our preparations for a hurricane. And that has really made a huge contribution, I think, to where we are today, that, in my opinion, we are so very well prepared, and the people, I think, are prepared. I've spent the last 2 days, giving out and helping people with plywood and other things they needed in order to prepare for the hurricane. And they have been extremely grateful for the response that has come from the government in terms of the provision of all the plywood and the sandbags, all of these things being provided by government. And I think, our people are really grateful for what has been given. And I think at the moment, my view is that we are as prepared as we can be for the arrival of this hurricane tonight. Of course, there are those that have left all of their preparations to the last minute. There are a few of those, but by and large, people have responded well, and they are prepared this evening for the arrival of the hurricane. So my plea and my encouragement to everyone in the Cayman Islands is to stay tuned and keep your channels of communication open, and listen to the official channels, I should say, in terms of the advice that is given, and heed that. Make sure that you and your families are well secured, your properties and homes are well secured, and I think that we will come through this together with the least amount of damage and that we could ever expect to come from a situation like this. So I pray that Beryl will spare us, but we are prepared, I believe, and that is encouraging to me to know as Leader of the Opposition. Premier mentioned I do have some constituency matters to attend to, and I'm hopeful now that we can get those done and completed as quickly as possible, and make sure that everyone is ready to shelter in their space and face Hurricane Beryl together. And I thank everyone for their attention and for their cooperation thus far. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Leader of the Opposition, Mr. Roy McTaggart. Now we'll go to the Honourable Premier.
Thank you, Donna. Good afternoon, everyone. I wish to first and foremost thank you for joining us in this press conference. I know that you probably still in the process of preparing and making sure that your families and your properties are secure, but I thank you for your interest in carving out some time to be here to help us communicate the important information to all in sundry, not just within the jurisdiction, but obviously there have been many, many inquiries international as to what obtains in the Cayman Islands or plans and the way forward. We want to emphasize that the government is committed, as we hope we have been demonstrating, to ensuring there's public safety. We also want to emphasize the importance of the community cooperation and the vigilance we've seen during this time. I have had the opportunity now to have traversed all 3 islands and observe the level of preparation that's out there. And I'm like the Leader of Opposition and my colleagues in HE, I am extremely proud to see the way that our comps team and Danny and her hazard team and the other senior teams acting, Governor Eric and Miss Glory, who rotates with him from time to time, and Mr. Manson is out of jurisdiction. And let me just say here that he's out of jurisdiction, but his mind is very much with us, and he's been checking in to ensure that all is the way that we've planned and prepared time and time again. As it relates to sister islands, you would have heard me say time and time again, I feel almost like a fish out of water. It's the first time since Hurricane Gilbert that I'm in Grand Cayman and not home with my people, but I did go over there, and I can tell you they are as prepared as anyone in any district. And our shelters there open, the Ash and Reddish Center, the multipurpose hall, as well as the Western Primary School, all open at 9 a.m. The shelter in Little Cayman, which is our public works residential quarters and regular time, will open at 3 p.m. and there's a reason for that. Our airport in Little Cayman will close at 3 p.m. and the one and only district officer has to be very multi-talented and faceted. And so as soon as the airport is closed there, he will commence his duties at the shelter to ensure that everybody's there. I can also report, as it relates to Sister Islands, all of our tourists and residents that wanted to be out were booked, and by now should be well on their way to their desired and/or aspirational destination. The current status, I am reliably informed. Hurricane Beryl is moving through the Caribbean. As you would see, it was just south of Kingston. It's expected to approach our jurisdiction early on Thursday morning. The center currently, and let me put a caveat in, that if none of the current situations and assumptions does not change, is expected to pass 117 miles south of Cayman Brac at approximately midnight and 112 miles south of Little Cayman at about 1 a.m. on Thursday, just about 6 to 9 miles south of our island here, Grand Cayman, at about 4:30 a.m. If the storm continues in its forecasted track, we can expect and reliably inform the following weather conditions for the Cayman Islands. Grand Cayman, starting tonight, overcast skies, widespread thunderstorms, and the last satellite peep I got just before coming here, it does have quite a bit of lightning in the north quadrant, so that can be anticipated as well. Early Thursday morning, tropical storm condition as Hurricane Beryl approaches. But the good news is by early Thursday afternoon, God's willing, conditions will begin to subside, and we hope that our impact would not be as bad as we're preparing for. But we've learned from over the years, because of the unpredictability of storms, that we prepare for the worst and hope for the best. We anticipate that there would be widespread flooding, reducing by evening as the hurricane began to move away from the territory. Seas, we are anticipating extremely rough seas, significant swells, some storm surge peaking around Thursday morning. Rough seas are expected through Friday, however. As it relates to the Sister Islands and Little Cayman, similarly, except a bit earlier than us here in Grand Cayman, from this afternoon, overcast skies and widespread thunderstorms, and I can say that my people there have been sending in videos already, and it just shows the level of preparation. I mean, the storm isn't near there, and I've received videos from the north coast of Cayman Brac and to the south coast, and I want to, at this juncture, thank them very much. It makes me a little bit homesick, but I'll get through it with the rest of you. Late Wednesday night, we expect tropical storms conditions In the sister islands by Thursday morning, it is expected conditions remaining as is, conditions should begin to subside. There will be some flooding on the sister islands. That should also be reduced by Thursday afternoon. As in Grand Cayman, there'll be some rough seas, especially on the south coast of Cayman and Little Cayman. The swells will be significant. I'm also reliably informed that the arrival of Beryl in the sister islands will be at high tide, as opposed to Grand Cayman. If all things being equal, it will be at a much lower tide, and it makes a significant difference. Hurricane Beryl poses, and I want to emphasize, significant threat to all three of our islands, including life-threatening storm surges, damaging waves, heavy rainfall, which may lead to flooding. As you know, we had quite a bit of rain recently, and the grounds are already very saturated, so it lends to trees having a tendency to fall over much quicker had it come 4 weeks ago when we were still experiencing the drought period. The Cayman Islands National Weather Service is, as expected, closely monitoring Hurricane Beryl, and our team will continue to provide these regular updates of the hurricane's progress. Government's commitment, it goes without saying, to public safety and preparedness. We have taken every reasonable step to ensure that all of our people, Caymanians, residents, tourists alike, are as safe and as prepared as they can be. Danny and her team have opened the shelters, some of them staggered. There are some facilities, for example, the Georgetown, the new high school, John Gray, as well as Clifton Hunter. Prospect, they will have medical staff present, but also my colleague and minister will deal with those issues as it arises. We want to ensure that safety is our top priority. There are many other competing factors at this time, but right now safety is the main and paramount consideration. All of our emergency response protocols have now been activated. Disaster preparedness teams are coordinating efforts around the clock. As I indicated, shelters are prepared, and you'll be happy to know that some of them are pet friendly. A full list of shelters and emergency medical centers can be found on gov.ky, as well as on the government social media channels. As it relates to pets in Cayman, we have built through private donation several years ago a facility we refer to as Noah's Ark. It's situated on top of the bluff at the agriculture grounds, and it is as a first come service only. And as I said on Radio Cayman, I would invite all of the big heart givers in private sector to consider following suit and build an appropriate pet facility at the highest elevation in Grand Cayman, because as I've been reminded several times in the past 48 hours, pets are like children to some, and they want to know that their pets are covered. Do not leave them out in the yard to fend for themselves. Do not leave them tied up. Take care of your animals, even if you don't want to take them to the shelter, that's entirely up to you. Make sure that they're well taken care of. We also are going to give a specific call just before we go into shelter in place at 6 p.m. for the BRAC, and at Danny, 6 p.m. for Grand Cayman as well. So all three islands, 6 p.m. this evening, shelter in place. Now we have the option, obviously, with the Commissioner of Police, Kirk Walton, that he can, on his discretion, do a curfew. We've had quite a bit of curfews during COVID, and you are responsible. If you prove yourselves to the continued responsibility as you have displayed over the past few days, I am sure the Commissioner will be the Commissioner as he always be. He will not be punitive. The slightest indication that the Commissioner has, he has the full backing of myself and my colleagues to do whatever is necessary to maintain order and peace in this territory. We have seen, I was in a CARICOM meeting yesterday morning with my brothers and sister leaders of the Caribbean, and sad to say, human nature being what it is, looting had started in some of the Eastern Caribbean islands already. When we had Hurricane Ivan, we experienced the same thing. So if you're planning on looting, rest assured, we have a very competent Commissioner of Police, and he will be on the streets. He's not succumbed to curfew or to in place. So do not get the idea that everybody will be locked down and this is going to be your panacea to go looting. There's the Cayman Islands, and we will do everything necessary to maintain law and order. National security falls under the governor, but I thought I'll take the liberty as someone that you can't fire or hire because I'm retired next election to tell you in straight Caymanian language, stay home, stay put, leave the police to do what they do best. We don't know the extent of the impact of Hurricane Ivan, and we may need their services, their energies and synergies come Thursday afternoon. While I'm that, let me just say up front, those of you who operate liquor institutions and have that urgency to attend mental health without going to Dr. Gent and get the advice from my good Minister of Health, please do some delayed gratification. Let's get through this storm, and I don't think there'll be withdrawal syndromes to the extent that you need to go to ICU. I've said that to say this. I need every able person, man, woman, boy, girl, to be clear-minded, to be focused, to concentrate, to protect yourself first and foremost, protect your families, protect your properties, but to be ready to build back this country should the need arise. We have done it before, from Allen to Gilbert to Ivan. It's now Beryl's turn. It's the beginning of the season. Let's prove to the world that we can come together and we can get another side of this as good as in other territory. We cannot do it when we're under the influence. Enough said for that. So the call is for full cooperation, for diligence, to be vigilant for every single individual. Back in the US, there was a call when it was to war that we need a few good men. I'm upping it a bit. I need all men, not picking on you, but I need every one of you. I need every woman who's had to be a single parent or to carry the load on herself. Let's get together. And so maybe we can put a stop to the Calypso song that women go run things, change that narrative and prove that we are a collective partnership who are a neighborhood operating jurisdiction, and we're going to approach the storm with a new vision. Let's face it, we have strayed and strayed far. It's as if your GPS was going out on I-95. It's time to recalibrate. Let's get on the high road of protecting these Cayman Islands that we love dearly and do it right and do it best. For accurate, timely information, residents are encouraged to stay connected under the following official channels. Local weather updates, www.weather.gov.ky. Hazard management, Cayman Islands, www.CaymanPrepared.ky. Local news outlets, of course, Radio Cayman, CIG TV, and any other outlets. And I would say for those of you that have taken the time to come out there, even if you don't ask a question, make sure to say what your sites are, what your outlet is, and we're going to be pushing it because we need you to help us get this word out and keep this country safe and secure. Social media, follow at CaymanGov, at Cayman Prepared on Instagram and Facebook for real-time updates. Finally, secure your homes, and I hope you've done that by now. If not, do it with your properties, rental or otherwise. Ensure you have sufficient supplies of water, food, and essential medication. And I almost wondered whether I should say that because I had to run to Foster's this morning. And if Caymanians know how to do things, we know how to shop. If residing in low-lying or flood-prone areas, I would ask that you consider moving to higher ground or one of the designated shelters. After 45 miles per hour, we will not allow our emergency personnel or equipment to go out. You have ample time to find shelter or to be confident that you are secure. If you are prepared, look out for your neighbors. I know we don't have a problem with that because everything that happened before it happens, and that's not a mistake, I'm just being facetious, it's on Marl Road. So I know we have a good network in Cayman. Know your neighbor, help them if they need help. I ran into a lady in Foster's this morning. She looked like she probably was in her 80s, and she was pretty shaken up because she had not received any plywood yet, and even if she didn't know how to install it. Look around, there's still a few in your community. Make sure that if you can help them, please help them. The elderly, there's some with special needs. Some need oxygen. Some are in dialysis, and we had discussions about that, and my minister will either today at an appropriate time inform you of that. Adhere to the instructions or advices issued by emergency services. Avoid unnecessary travel and stay indoors during the storm. I know, because I'm guilty of that. As soon as the storm passes by, and that's our own interpretation, without getting it unclear from Danny, we want to go and see how many conchs washed up on the beach. We want to see how many roofs are off. We just want to see. Inquiring minds want to know. Cooperate. Their procedure is that there will be an all clear. We need to assess the damages, if any, on the 3 islands to ensure that it is safe for your own good. I feel that it's worth noting also that although we've had a number of days to prepare for Hurricane Beryl, there are still those, because of their essential roles, boarding up, and we saw that as we traversed the streets of Georgetown today. Their businesses and homes preparing for the storm. They may not have had adequate time, and those of us in the front line, we know we put others first because we're servant leaders. Take some time, get an hour or two, and I'm probably preaching to myself to get some rest before the onslaught come, because we're going to need your expertise. We're going to need your stamina to get us through. And then I would also like to echo our acting deputy governor, Mr. Eric, his remarks yesterday, where he asked employers to allow your employees time to prepare for the storm. We know a business, by its mere nature, Business 01 is to make a profit, to improve your P&L. But do not do it to the detriment of your employees who you're expecting to show up to work on Friday morning. And then as I conclude at this junction, let us remain calm. Stay prepared. Look after one another as we face this challenge together. We are in this together. Let us not forget the neighborly principle, not just from a legal perspective, but from Christ, to love one another. Who is our neighbor? Everyone you come in contact with, not just a person in a condo next door across the fence. The Cayman Islands government, we, including the opposition, are here to support you. But we need your continued cooperation. We can minimize the impact of Hurricane Beryl and protect our community if we do it together. If we do it together, we can come through what is yet to come to Cayman. I'm confident of that.
Thank you, Premier O'Connor-Connolly. Now we go to Deputy Premier, Mr. Andre Banks.
Thank you, Donna, and good afternoon, Cayman. A few overall comments before I touch on some specific ministry matters. I just want to say that I think the level of coordination between the political arm and the civil service has been extraordinary. I echo the sentiments of the leader of the opposition, either seeing it firsthand or hearing it word of mouth, or seeing pictures. I've seen all 19 members out working personally, actually doing hands-on labor. I think, knowing the deputy governor as well as I do, I'm pretty sure he's on pins. He'd be like one of those quarterbacks who can't get in the game at the Super Bowl, but he could rest assured that his civil service team is doing stellar. Acting DG Eric Bush has been doing a wonderful job, and of course we have all the other HODs and COs to thank. Danny Coleman is always an extraordinary star as usual. Glad she ended up on the Weather Channel to go global for us. So thank you all. I also want to say that I think Capsec and Onisha Richards, the communications has been extraordinary. And getting word out, getting YouTube messages, coordinating messages for ministers and all MPs has been fantastic. In terms of getting out supplies and provisions, my one comment to all of my constituents and residents in West Bay is do not just utilize this for Beryl. Continue this for the entire season. If the Lord should grace us and we're spared from Beryl, you should keep your provisions and your supplies and your measures in place. There's still all of July, all of August, all of September, all of October, all of November. That's a lot of car crashes to have to dodge. Keep your provisions in place. I was so proud and touched by one constituent where his plywood looked brand new. He's had it for 5 years. He cares for it. He puts it in his garage and he paints it over so it looks new. please keep your provisions and your supplies intact. And a special shout out to Caymanians overseas. I've got lots of messages for people who couldn't make it back, were away for other functions. For whatever reason, the Lord has you right where you are supposed to be. You never know what we might need and what position you may be in to help us. So do not worry, you are right where you are supposed to be, and we are where we are supposed to be. In terms of turning now to social development, I've checked in with both the HOD for Children and Family Services and also the Needs Assessment Unit. All residential facilities have been checked in and have been prepared. There was one outlier, and I want to give a special shout out to Minister Bryan. It was the Rehoboth that is on Crown property. It's a community center in his constituency. For whatever reason, there was a thought by the civil service that they had shutters. They did not. Minister Bryan and I coordinated, got pieces of plywood. I think it was 12 sheets. He delivered the plywood, collected it personally, delivered it personally, and then we worked with the ministry staff to get PWD to put it on. So now that facility for an MPO under social development is now covered. I'd also like to thank Meals on Wheels for delivering all their meals to clients this morning, and also extra kit and also resource information. For those who are the most vulnerable from a financial assistance standpoint, those who are seamen and vets, seafarers and vets, those who are receiving long-term financial assistance and food assistance, they have each been granted an additional $400 in a stipend to help them offset the expenses that they might have had incurred for preparing for Hurricane Beryl. Most of those, the lion's share, went out by direct deposit, so it should be accessible if they have bank cards today. There are about 150 and change that went out by checks, but NEU is trying to coordinate as much as possible to give them food cards in the meantime. In terms of resources, I'd also like folks to know some personal hotlines just in the event that you need it. Do not forget Cayman Islands Adult Mental Health Helpline, 1-800-534-6463. That's 1-800-534-MIND-6463. Cayman Kids Helpline, 649-KIDS, 649-5437, and also the Crisis Center. Crisis Center's hotline is 943-2422, 943-2422. If I could move over from financial services and commerce perspective, I've checked in with most of the major accounting firms and law firms. They seem to have their preparations intact. They seem to try to juggle business and staffing at the same time. Chamber of Commerce has been in contact with the government. They have been stellar, and so has the Bankers Association. They've made sure that ATMs are topped up and will be under enhanced monitoring. So thank you all. I echo the Premier's sentiments that we will get through this as a country, as a people, whether you're overseas or you are here, and this is just the beginning of the season. So we have to get through this run and be prepared for the rest of the season. God bless you all.
Thank you, Deputy Premier Ebanks. We now go to Minister for Tourism and Ports, the Honorable Kenneth Ryan.
Thank you, Donna. Good afternoon, everyone. It's an honor to be here to give you the relevant information and assist you as we go through this process together with Hurricane Beryl. As Minister of Tourism, to give you an update, I've been working closely with our team at Department of Tourism and Ministry of Tourism, working closely with private sector, being the Cayman Islands Tourism Association, and the major hotels. As a part of a tourism destination, our key focus is to make sure that our visiting guests can stay safe, as well as our locals. We've worked closely with the hotels to ensure that they have activated their emergency plans, which all the major hotels do. And I'm proud to say that we have great planning legislation that allows our hotels to be all hurricane rated. Guests were given the option to stay on island or to evacuate, as we've been working closely with all the national airlines internationally and our local Cayman Airways flag carrier. A number of flights have been added since Monday, up to 24 extra flights than scheduled, and we've had over 1,000 people already evacuated, and we continue to get the numbers as to exactly how many guests that we have here. Many hotels have brought staffing together. For example, partnerships between Sunshine Suites as well as the Westin. The hotel decided to close Sunshine Suites and with any guests who decided to stay, and let them stay at the Westin, as Westin has activated their hotel hurricane preparedness plan. I want to send a big shout out to Cayman Airways, who've been working very hard, the board and the staff and the CEO, working up till 3 o'clock last night with the extra flights that they have put on for persons who wanted to get off island. And those flights will continue today until the airport's authority closes at 6 p.m. We will continue to keep an eye on the guests while they're here, as it's our international obligation to make sure that they are safe. And once the all clear has been given, give them the opportunity to get back to their homes safely. As per the port is battened down and shut down since 12 p.m. today, and ready and waiting for the all clear, as there are ships, cargo ships on standby to arrive on Friday in the event of minimal damage to our infrastructure. I'm happy to hear after the debriefing with Her Excellency and the Premier today and the hazard management team that the projections are a little bit further south than a couple of hours ago, and I know that with God's help and our preparedness, that we'll get through this together. I'm not going to repeat all of the details of the hurricane coordinates and threats, as I know our comms teams have done very well with informing the Cayman Islands. But I dare say to remember the important details that you need to know: your shelter, telephone numbers, medication, passports, and so forth. And if you don't know what they are and you're not sure, you did your checklist, go to CaymanPrepared.ky for further information, as the hazard management team has prepared a very detailed list for you to be aware of. In respect to my role as the chairman of the Caribbean Tourism Organization, on behalf of the Cayman Islands, our sympathies go out to the islands who have recently been affected by Hurricane Beryl: St. Vincent and the Grenadines, Grenada, St. Lucia, and partially Barbados and Tobago. And we know that Jamaica is currently being affected by it, and we will do so very soon. We will get through this together as a country, but I want our thoughts and minds and our prayers out for those who have already had the wrath of Hurricane Beryl. Unfortunately, she has taken a few lives, but I'm happy that in the Cayman Islands we are very prepared. The teams, the comms teams, Her Excellency's hazard management team has been superb, on point. And I will echo the Leader of Opposition, I will echo my Premier, and I'll echo my Deputy Premier. I think we are as prepared as we can be. Of course, there will be one or two persons who are not quite there, but I encourage those of you. It is Minister 3 now. We still got a little time. Check on your neighbors, check on your families, check on down your street, check in your neighborhood, check in your district. If you are already prepared, check on somebody else. With that being said, I'm happy to take any questions, but before I do so, I just want to say congratulations, and I'm very proud of my team at the Ministry, at the Cayman Islands Department of Tourism, at Cayman Airways, at the Cayman Islands National Attractions Authority, which is Pedro St. James and Botanic Park, and the Port Authority and the Cayman Islands Turtle Center. All the chairmen and all the board members have been working very hard to make sure that they're all prepared in the event of direct hit. I'd also like to say thank you to our partners in tourism, the Cayman Islands Tourism Association, all the hotels, all the condos, all the staycations. We are proud of you, because together we will get through this. Thank you so much. God bless you, and stay safe.
Thank you very much, Minister Bryan. We will now go to Minister for Health and Wellness as well as Home Affairs, the Honorable Sabrina Turner, who will also be bringing remarks from Minister of Infrastructure, the Honorable Johnny E. Banks.
Good afternoon, everyone, and thank you, Donna. Yes, this evening I'm wearing multiple hats, but on behalf of my colleague and friend, Minister J. E. Banks, who is not able to attend this briefing in person because he's still in his constituency assisting persons to prepare for this impending weather, he's asked me to read a statement on his behalf. But before doing that, I will just cover information from from my Ministry of Health, understanding that that is quite topical, and we know that there's important information, very important information for the relocation of persons. I have been informed by the HSA senior management team that the facilities are secured with backup generators and they have ample supply of water. Staff are already at work during and after the storm to ensure continuity of care. HSA also keeps a 3-month supply of on-site, and they have also arranged for vendors on hand if backups are required. Now, all outpatient clinics, pharmacies are now closed, and elective surgeries are canceled here and in the sister islands. HSA will also be providing updates regarding the resumption of all services pending the all clear, and we're asking persons who will require any medical services unless it's dire emergency, accident and emergency room will operate 24 hours. But we're asking persons to stay at home unless it is deemed a true medical emergency. Now, during tropical force winds, 911 emergency calls are responded to on an individual basis and depending on risk assessment. Emergency medical service vehicles will not be able to operate in tropical force winds, which are deemed unsafe for our first responders. Treatment should be sought for medical emergencies only. For any medical concerns, persons can call 949-8600, that's 8600, or the second option for them to speak to a clinician. Now, accident emergency at the Faith Hospital in Cayman Brac will remain open for any emergencies, and there has been a relocation to the Aston Rutty Medical Wing from 1 p.m. This afternoon. And to contact accident and emergency, persons may call 345-244-7643. That's for the sister islands, 345-244-7643. For those persons remaining on Little Cayman Health Center can be reached on 345-916-5395 in an emergency. Again, for Little Cayman only, 916-5395 in an emergency. Now, as a reminder to public health, the Cayman Islands Health Services Authority's facilities, this also includes all district health centers, are not, and let me repeat, they are not hurricane shelters for the public. If you need a shelter, please go to the nearest district hurricane shelter closest to you. Health Services Authority has also collaborated with other hospitals if any contingencies are needed. Now, recommendations for vulnerable patients. For pregnant women who are experiencing contractions and women who are in their 7th month or their 3rd trimester or beyond that should contact their obstetrician for guidance and possible referral to the hospital for admission. For all dialysis and chemo patients who have been treated, they have been treated ahead of the storm, and as soon as the all clear is given for continuity of services, you will also be contacted and given your slotted times. Now, for emergency medical centers, Health Services Authority staff are on hand for all emergency medical center shelters. Now, this includes doctors, nurses, midwives, and mental health professionals. But we want to make it very clear that anyone who will be attending these shelters, we have carved out persons who can attend these emergency medical centers with these expertise on hand. But we are asking people, please do not drop persons at these centers without a family member or a caregiver. I have gotten reports that persons are dropping, elderly patients, persons who are dependent on oxygen, persons may have ventilated issues, or wheelchair-bound patients, individuals with severely reduced mobilities, persons even with mental health illness who are non-violent, medically impaired individuals who are able to maintain activities or daily livings without special needs or assistance. Let's say they have a colostomy or a tracheotomy, or asthmatic persons. These persons we do not want dropped off at these facilities unless they are accompanied by a family member or a caregiver. In regards to medication, protect your medications by securing them in an airtight, watertight plastic container or in a Ziploc bag. And we're asking persons to please store their medications in a cool, dry place and only refrigerate those labeled for fridge or to be refrigerated. Now, instructions for residents about making their house numbers visible for emergency services, like when you call 911, we know a lot of you have done the necessary pre-hurricane preparedness by putting on shutters and so forth. We are reminding you to ensure that your number is visible in the event that emergency personnel have to respond, that your numbers are visible so that you can be located if that is needed. Now, persons with mental illness should shelter at an emergency medical center or shelter with other persons. Homeless persons should also go to a public shelter. In general, I would like to publicly thank my emergency first responders, especially the fire and the regiment. I have been working closely with Her Excellency the Governor. We know that NEOC has already been established, and I am so proud of this collaborative effort in helping us through this crisis and being prepared and as safe as possible. This also includes our cadets, and I want to publicly let the people of Prospect know that my crews are out there and we are assisting. I've gotten a couple calls this morning for elderly persons within the community needing additional assistance with the installation of plywood. And we've responded to a lady, and they have driven around because I'm here doing the national duties as well, which is again a double role. And I want to thank them for just being on the ground out there. But we are in this time where if you are already secured, just assist your neighbor as best as you can. You will also notice, which I'll go in more detail when I put on the hat in assisting Minister Jay from PAHI, that there is a pump station that has already been installed approximately 2 weeks ago to help pull the water out of the Prospect area. This is a long-awaited system that is required for the Prospect constituency for years that has suffered for severe flooding. That will be switched on as the weather deteriorates this evening and will continue to operate in our efforts to keep the people of the Prospect and Red Bay community dry. The last update that I have gotten from the Prospect Primary School, that shelter has officially now been open, and at last communication with one of the leaders there, we have had 22 persons who have registered. I want to thank those persons for heeding the notice and being proactive and reporting to the shelter. I will switch hats right now and read a statement from Honorable J. Ebanks, MP, Minister of Planning, Agriculture, Housing, Infrastructure, Transport and Development. Minister Jay, as I alluded to earlier, it remains in his constituency at this time, and he thanks his team for the extraordinary work that all of the individual departments have been working tirelessly on to ensure that they are at full state of readiness. We take comprehensive measures to ensure our infrastructure can withstand the storm, and our departments have activated their emergency plans, and they are committed to maintaining the safety and security of all residents. As it relates to the state of infrastructure readiness, their teams have been diligently working to secure 122 government buildings, preparing roads, clearing of drains, and providing additional support to the agricultural sector. The National Roads Authority has been addressing key areas including Finch Drive, West Bay, Windsor Park, Oak Mill, Prospect, and Newlands. Pump stations are set at Mangrove Drive, Poindexter, Randyke Gardens, Batabanu Road, Lakeside Villas, and Cumber Avenue. Additional emergency pumps are also on standby for the Linford-Pearson Highway, and culverts and swales have been cleared in the Lemuel Circle, Meadowlark, and St. Mary's Cemetery out in West Bay. Their Public Works Department has ensured that all shelters are ready and secure, and all shelters are open as of noon today, as we have been reported, and that's a staggered approach for opening. And they're urging everyone to identify their respective shelter ahead of time. Now, for pet owners, there are 2 pet-friendly shelters available, and we are confident that these facilities will provide safe haven for those in need during the storm. As it pertains to plans for rapid response and repair post-hurricane, once we have received the all clear from the National Emergency Operations Center, NEOC, as you will be hearing from, NRA crews and private sector partners will begin island-wide road clearance, prioritizing main routes, and they are prepared to respond to downed trees, clogged drains in critical areas as soon as it is safe. However, they will not be able to respond during the height of the storm due to safety concerns to their crew and definitely the equipment. Coordination with the utility companies and public services. As this hurricane approaches the Cayman Islands, our infrastructure partners are fully prepared and actively working to prevent service disruptions. Currently, all essential services such as electricity, pipe water, telephone, and transportation remain fully in operation. Digital bulletins will be updated in real time to keep the public informed. As it pertains to electricity, Caribbean Utilities Company and Cayman Power and Light have activated their operation contingency plans and will keep power on as long as it is safe to do so. As it pertains to water supply, the Water Authority and Cayman Water Company are prepared and will maintain water supply until tropical storm force winds arrive or unless there are disruptions to network interruptions. When it comes to fuel, Rubis, Sol, Home Gas, and Clean Gas have sufficient stores of gasoline, diesel, and propane to last for several weeks. Telecommunications, all operators and functioning and will maintain service unless interrupted by the storm. OffReg has engaged Starlink, which has a crisis response team ready to fly in communication kits if this is needed. They are closely coordinating with utility companies and public services to ensure continuous operation and rapid response. Now, the Caribbean Utilities CUC has sufficient fuel storage to maintain operations post-hurricane and will follow the NEOC assessments for road closures in conjunction with National Roads Authority and the Royal Cayman Islands Police Services. Each department and agency is adhering to their continued operational plans to ensure a swift recovery once the storm passes. We would like to remind the public to stay off the roads during the storm to allow road clearance teams and first responders to do their jobs effectively. Your safety is our top priority, so please stay tuned to official communication channels for updates and instructions. It is critical that we come together, both in government and private sectors, and we urge each of you, all of our residents and visitors, to stay informed through our official channels, including CaymanPrepared.ky and the NENS app, and remain vigilant. So let us unite as a community. Once we've ensured your families are safe, check on your neighbors, and especially those who are elderly or may require more assistance. I ask you to exemplify what is true Caymanian kindness and resilience as we navigate through Hurricane Beryl. Together, we will overcome the challenges and that challenges that Beryl will bring to our islands, and we will emerge from this stronger and definitely united. Safety, again, is our top priority, and please take all necessary precautions to stay informed, look out for each other, and remember to shelter in place from 6 p.m. this evening. May God's grace secure and watch over you and your families as our blessed Cayman Islands. The Honorable J.E. Banks, Minister of Planning, Agriculture, Housing, Infrastructure, Transportation, and Development.
All right, thank you, Minister Turner, as well as for sharing Minister J.E. Banks's remarks there. Before we open the floor up for questions from the media and the public, I'd just like to mention that in the room with us, we have representatives from Hazard Management, as well as the Weather Services, the Health Services Authority, and as mentioned, the Commissioner of Police is also here, along with other senior civil servants and leaders. All right, so we're going to open up the floor for the first set of questions, which will come from Ralph from the Caymanian Times.
Good afternoon. Thank you, Donna, and thanks to the panel for inviting us. I have three brief questions. The first one is for Director John Tibbetts regarding the storm. We are expecting a strong tropical storm to arrive in our shores very soon. Can you say what type of damage can our residents expect?
Okay. Good day. Thank you very much for the question. The Cayman Islands we are expecting to have not a strong tropical storm. The conditions will be a strong tropical storm, but the storm is still a hurricane. Okay, it is very tightly wrapped, and so the impacts that we're expecting to get are very strong winds, obviously, getting up to 40 to 50 knots or 50 to 60 miles per hour over the Grand Cayman area. That'd be Thursday morning. And for the sister islands, more 35 to 40 knots or 45 to 50 miles per hour. We're also expecting a storm surge, and we're also expecting flooding from heavy rainfall.
Okay. Thank you very much. Just wanted to get a sense of what our residents can look for. Donna, my second question is for the Deputy Premier. And do you have a sense of the percentage of vulnerable people in the Cayman Islands, those who live in houses that they really can't fix up, or those who have families that just don't have the funds to take care of themselves as others would? Do you have a sense of how much of them exist in the Cayman Islands and what have been done to assist those people?
So the financial assistance clientele is about 5,000.
Okay.
But I wouldn't want to exclude those who may be working and are living paycheck to paycheck, who are borderline. There may be even higher number, or those who may be temporary employed. But for those who are within the financial assistance remit, they got the assistance that I mentioned in my contribution. Additionally, for those who are getting long-term financial assistance, seafarers and vets, and also getting food assistance. In addition to that, I think those are the majority, at least in my district, and I think I can speak for the other districts, that receive donated supplies from the government because they don't have the wherewithal to purchase the supplies, and also needed assistance to actually construct the supplies or install or assemble the supplies. So from that perspective, I think that's where the lion's share of our efforts have gone towards. We know that there are individuals and families who are more self-sufficient, and we're happy for that, but we're also thankful to those who have donated themselves, either their time in kind, and also for charitable assistance to help those who are in need.
Okay, thank you. And my final question is for the Premier. Premier, for many of our residents, this time can be unnerving. What calming words can you give the community that the preparations of the government and the services and the availability is in hand and they can relax to some extent?
Thank you for the opportunity. We have certainly done everything humanly possible that have been brought to our attention, and even from a proactive perspective, to make sure they had the sandbags, make sure they had the plywood, and we also, as Minister have just said, DP have just said, from a social engineering perspective, as far as we're aware, gave an early opportunity to top up. I can say that last night my team and I worked through the night after we met with caucus, the technical staff, my advisors, to look at the possibility and anticipation of what will be coming our way, and knowing that there is a need, even with persons who have a steady income, when you have an unexpected or unforecasted eventuality as what we have with Hurricane Beryl, that we will we should, after having spoken to Foster's last night, and let me just say, out of the abundance of caution, the reason we went to Foster's because they're the only supermarket I'd have in the majority of districts in Cayman. So from a decentralization, efficiency, and effectiveness perspective, that's the way approaching what as he normally does is, although we call late into the night, both him and the FS from my office, they're, as we speak, working to get voucher cards for distribution, as we did with the plywood. It will go to all 19 members to distribution on Monday. We're still working out the logistics about how many and how much. Obviously, I wear my Minister of Finance hat, so I'm going to be fiscally prudent, but at the same time, the needs of my people will be important, and certainly they will get the prioritization. I can say, by fate or design intervention, it came on the heels of payday, so most people would have had some form of resources. I also know that our clubs have been doing things. I ran into one of my workers at Foster's, and his particular club, which I won't name for obvious reasons, have been filling sandbags, and he's a senior civil servant, and he was apologizing to me because I had to get a ride from him from Foster's back to here to make the press conference, that his car was full of sand. And, I've just said that to say this, it just showing the level that everybody have come on board to make sure that the good ship Cayman Islands is ready to face the storm. And for me, the final bit of assurances that we'll give is from the Word of God, it said, be still and know that I am God. After having done all, still stand.
Thank you, Premier. Thank you, Donna.
Thank you very much, Ralph. We now call on Radio Cayman's April Cummings.
Thank you, everyone. I have only a couple of questions, and most of them are not actually mine. They've come from people sending me messages from other places. A person expressed some concern about the south of the island in particular, and asked if anything special, unique, or different was being done in order to extra mitigate, if you will, the potential impact of the storm.
Well, I think it's difficult to do anything from the marine perspective. So we have to do it from an individual perspective to make sure that your properties, if you're in a low-lying area, you secure your property. Life is more important. Properties can be replaced. So you get to the safest place, or you catch a Cayman Airways and come back when we're all safe and sound. And I'm not being funny about that, but I'd rather lose a night for accommodation and make sure that people are safe so they don't destroy our international reputation, because lives are much more important. We don't have the type of engineering that you would see in New Orleans, and even those that had, no problem with engineering. When nature speaks, we stand, sit, lie in awe, let it have its course, do all that we can, and we will survive. Obviously, the utility companies, in particular the water company, in anticipation that it is going to come with a more severe impact on the southern westerly side of our island, they will have to make the decision at a reasonably good time, and I chose those words very carefully, because we do have people who rely solely on the Water Authority and that side of the island, that they will need to have an adequate supply of water. So what I would say to them is that get your 5-gallon pails. We as Caymanians still save things around. We like to hoard, we like to recycle. Fill them up, fill up your tubs, fill up your basins to make sure that you have adequate amount of water. If you still have access to empty bottles, you can use them not to drink, but for other household and human uses around the house. So I would just say that, don't get too hard on the Water Authority or on CUC. They have given the commitment that for as long as possible, they will remain open to the public, but in the interest of securing those facilities, which will be needed, not just during the storm, but certainly after the storm. That would be the overriding factor when they'll go to shut down.
Another question related to flooding and the fact that we have had the saturation from the recent floodwaters. Concerns were expressed about the risk of toxic materials. So, you'll see the video of people running around in the post-storm floodwaters, but we've got oil and fuel and batteries and all kinds of things. I know this is probably Mr. Sims' question, but...
Yeah, that was a question that well, not exactly, but close enough. And so if you don't mind, I'll call Minister and Dr. Jen, who has already pretty much rehearsed an expectation that this would arise sooner or later.
And I don't mean to be funny, Dr. Jen, but I did run around in the floodwaters barefoot as a child, so I have some concerns about that happening again.
Not the only one. Very, very good question. We've looked fairly carefully at a number of potential issues. You're right. There are some toxic materials. Particularly, I worry about potential runoff from the landfill site as much as anything. But we know to a degree that large storage is very, very well bonded. Probably the more reasonable concern is where we're looking at release of sewage materials to land from septic tanks or from fractured sewers. Fortunately, the amount of water does come to our aid in that respect, in that very, very large amounts of rainfall do dilute and disperse materials so that they cannot be of a threat. You need a certain level of exposure to particularly bacteria and the viruses that might be coming in fecal material to get an illness. And if they're dispersed, and particularly the other issue that we have here is after the storm's over, we get very bright sunlight. Very bright sunlight is also, does disinfect land very quickly. So I'm not concerned about that risk, but also I'm not encouraging people to run around. We may have unsightly things afterwards, what we tactfully call toilet litter. And obviously we would be encouraging people to clear up sensibly, use gloves, wash their hands well. Soap and water is very good if they're involved in that kind of a cleanup, but there should be no risk to them directly from these materials.
Thank you very much for that. And the last question, I think was answered, but I just want to make sure that it was. It really related to the fact that there are some visitors to the island who've chosen to stay. And the question was, are they welcome at shelters if that becomes necessary?
As long as there's a life, we are here to protect them, and shelters are for every living soul on this country.
Thank you very much.
All right, thank you very much, April. Before we move on to Wendy Ledger from Cayman News Service via Zoom, just a quick mention from the Director of the National Roads Authority, Mr. Edward Howard. He says that he's asking for persons that are parking vehicles along the Linford Pearson Highway and other locations that are island-wide to not block the NRA's assets. They said they have equipment that is strategically placed across the island, and they need to have unhindered access in order to clear roads promptly for all first responders. Now, I can't tell you what will happen to your vehicle if you didn't do that, but that's a word there from the director of the NRA, Mr. Edward.
Donna, if I could chime in there for a minute,
Absolutely.
and I wonder whether or not Director Howard for NRA is also referring to folks who are parked on bridges.
Yeah, yeah.
So if you're proceeding from town on Esther Tibbetts towards West Bay, there's a bridge before the Ritz, and there's a bridge after the Kimpton. There are cars parked there now. I believe Police Commissioner would agree with me that they hinder emergency vehicles. They are a hazard, and they put unnecessary pressure on those bridges. I think NRA is asking for all those to be removed, so I'd like to reiterate that there as well, here as well, because I think that is something that again would show community kindness. I understand the rationale for why someone might think they would want to park there, but at the end of the day, I think it's doing more harm than good, or potential harm than good.
Yeah.
Okay, thank you very much, Deputy Premier. We're now going to go to Wendy Ledger from Cayman News Service via Zoom. Wendy?
Thank you, Donna. Can you hear me okay?
We sure can. Please go ahead.
Oh, fabulous. I'll get to it, no preambles. Can I just check, first of all, the first question is regarding shelter space. I'm sure we're all aware that there are probably over 90,000 people living in Cayman now, and we've only got a few thousand, I think it's maybe 6,000, is it, shelter spaces? The minister's just said that tourists are welcome. What kind of situation are we facing if we do get really, really bad conditions and people are forced, as they were in Ivan, to flee their homes in the middle of the storm and head to the nearest shelter?
Donna, I'll respond to that, and I'll ask Donna to get ready to give the specifics. I think we have to take that in perspective. She will give the specific as to what numbers are. At this particular time, obviously we'll have more coming on once we get the Bottom Town Center completed. But the good news is that Cayman, under the Planning Building Code, has followed the South Florida Building Code. So we're not where we were several decades ago. We are where persons are realize and are cognizant that they live in a hurricane-prone lane. And so the quality of our construction is commendable anywhere in the Caribbean and compared to first world countries. So that takes a lot of pressure off any country, and we're happy to say that our people here may not be 100%, but a large enough percent that we're confident that they will act reasonable. They will remain in their properties, provided it's not close to the sea or in flood-prone areas, to allow space that's there. But we are a jurisdiction, and I can speak from personally, my own house is now being filled with persons there. As the owner of the house and other hurricanes, I've come out of my bedroom and put the elderly there. And that's the Cayman kind that we're talking about. We do whatever is necessary. Tourism is everybody's business, and I don't have to speak for the Minister of Tourism, but I will just say this. Because tourism is an integral part, it's the second industrial pillar within the Cayman Islands, we will not be turning anyone away, even if we have to do, as the Jamaicans say, small up a little and make a space.
Many thanks, Wendy, for the question. Again, I mean, in comparison to all the other overseas territories and the region itself, we have a significantly good capacity. Right now, we're at 11.5% across all 3 islands. Now, of course, that doesn't accommodate everyone, and we work very closely with our tourism sector and the Ministry of Tourism to ensure that the people, obviously, the visitors to the island can stay in their hotels, and of course, priority being evacuation beforehand. But as the Minister, Brian, said, we obviously wouldn't turn people away if visitors need to come into those public shelters. We have all our shelters open at this time, again, to make sure that we can accommodate. And right now, appreciate things will change quite dramatically over the next few hours, but we don't have a massive uptake right now. And again, I'm sure things will change over the next few hours leading into the evening. And as the Premier said, of course, you know, whilst we do have the guidelines, we adhere to the international sphere guidelines. At the end of the day, we will have to small up ourselves if by chance we have extra people. And again, that's you know, the actual space given per person in each shelter is you know, a fair enough space, but we can make that space smaller and still adhere to good practice. We've been working for a long time to try and increase that shelter capacity, but also with the private sector to make sure that, of course, you know, anyone who has a good, strong building, be it, you know, a corporate company or a law firm or so forth, can accommodate their own staff, and we train their shelter management teams. And again, moving forward, we'll continue to do that. We will also bring on a number of different, more shelter numbers this year. John Gray High School has increased significantly, and we hope to get Bottom Town Church of God on in the next couple of weeks. So, yes, we appreciate the shelter capacity isn't ideal, but we do think there's a lot going on to ensure that, you know, people will always have a safe space to go to in any emergency, be it Hurricane Beryl or, again, later on in the season when we have something potentially bigger. Thank you.
Donna, I think it's important that I chime in here for a bit. I want to just give some numbers as to exactly how many visitors that we have here on island at the current moment, which included the evacuation process over the last 2 days. We're estimated to be only about 5,000 persons on island. And as Minister of Tourism, I'm very, very confident and the hotel operations that we have here in the Cayman Islands, top within the region, and our planning infrastructure that we do have. Of course, storm surge is very important and scary in the realms of things, but with the data that we've been received and the storm going from the south, most of the major hotels wouldn't be directly in major concern, in my humble opinion. But more importantly, we've also heard from our Met lead team suggesting that we got to take things in stride. Maybe Hurricane 1 winds. We've been here before. We've survived these types of things before. And many of the houses today were the houses that were there before. And I do believe that we're well in capacity to handle this. And I don't suspect that all the shelters will be filled. So we're going to be okay. And to be honest with you, I'm hoping that the experience that those visitors who have decided to stay with us can say to the rest of the world how prepared we are, that if you ever want to come to the Cayman Islands, whenever you do come, you're going to be okay.
Okay, thank you very much, Minister Bryan. For that, you had further questions, Wendy? Wendy, did you have further questions? Okay, thank you. Now we're going to call on Andrell from the Compass.
Afternoon. Start by saying very few times am I preempted to the point where 90% of my questions are already answered.
Good, conference over.
I need to get to my constituents. That's good.
Very good indeed. Let me start first then. I can see that a lot of the work has already been done to secure residents and locals. There's still an overarching concern about whether or not Cayman is still or will even be open for business as far as the financial services is concerned, that being our main bread and butter. What do you say to our global partners, the people who are watching and or have vested interests in the Cayman Islands as far as the financial services are concerned?
Knowing our practitioners the way that I do, they will be working as much as they can throughout the entire storm, as long as nature allows it.
Mm-hmm.
Thank you. My second question is for the Director General, Mr. John Tibbetts, if you don't mind. Mr. Tibbetts, we've been told that the weather satellite imagery will be taken offline, which poses a significant degree of concern to several people who say, simply put, what purpose is this machinery if at a time when we need it most, it will go dark?
Understood. What the National Weather Service is doing is protecting the assets. If we leave it up in hurricane conditions, the asset will be damaged, and we will be left with a huge bill on our hands, as it were. In the interim, the National Weather Service will rely on other sources of satellite imagery that we have contacts with.
I think it might be, if I may, important to clarify or perhaps elucidate that the radar, the Doppler radar, is still up and running. It's just a satellite site, and you can access that from other outlets.
Thank you. Yeah, like I said, good job on stomping me and preparing the country.
It's making the job a little easier. Grateful that you're here.
Okay, thank you very much to members of the media. We lost the connection with Wendy. She's trying to get back on. In the meantime, before we wrap up, I have a couple of questions from members of the public. So are we aware if any of the shelters are at capacity as yet? Do we have any kind of data? They're not.
Certainly the BRAC is not at capacity. They are filing in because rains have started on the BRAC. That's why I'm on my phone. I'm not being disrespectful. I'm getting feedback from my constituency.
Yes.
We'll continue to send videos in. it first started in the Bight in the eastern area, but now it seems to be throughout. I can also confirm that our last flight were persons who wanted to be evacuated, mainly tourists, departed the airport at 3:10 p.m. and they should be well on the way to Grand Cayman. There was some huge cumulus clouds forming on the eastern part of Cayman Brac, and they've now begun to show what they have quite a lot of rain. And so it's only 90 miles away, so don't let your guards down, although the storm is not yet near to Cayman Brac based on projections we gave forward. It shows that they are out of bands, and when we say you need to be shelter in place at 6 o'clock, there's very good reason for that, because we have been reliably informed and we're making our decisions based on the information that our experts give us. So if you're listening, and I hope you are, and you're on the roads in Grand Cayman, I have no idea what it looks like outside because we're in GIS conference room. Make sure you're making your final preparations to get indoor. I know from the situation on the Brac that members, because it was 6 o'clock, some of them thought that they could do their last cooking and come to my house later. And so I've instructed my daughter to call them up and get them in my residence before 5 o'clock because doors shut. Yeah. And so I advise you to do the same. Do not be a dead hero. Exercise your common sense and get in shelter. So free up my commissioner of police to do what he needs to do, because business still continues as a regular events in Cayman. That has not shut down. He still has his policing to do.
Okay, thank you very much, Premier O'Connor Connolly. A two-part question from a member of the public. I take it it's a visitor. Where can newcomers to Cayman get, or maybe somebody who's working here now, where can newcomers to Cayman get advice on whether they're living in what is considered a flood zone, and how close to the coast is too close?
I'll ask Dana to respond. If you're in the sister islands, I can respond. It's no coincidence that most of my constituency have built their homes on the north side of Cayman Brac rather than the south, because the bluff offers us great protection. But obviously Grand Cayman have the lovely 7-mile beaches and people want to get on it. And I'll ask Danny to respond to that, because for me, being anywhere within 500 yards is too close to me. I'd much rather be 6 or 7 feet up on the bluff right now.
Thank you, Premier. Again, I think one of the things we always try and say is that know your elevation as part of your preparedness planning. Appreciate at this stage it's a little late for that, but Lands and Survey can always help with that in blue skies. So maybe next week, if you don't know yet what your elevation is, please do reach out to them. I think it's right, again, I think you need to make a risk assessment of your own home. If you have a one-story on the south side, for example, and on the coast, I would strongly suggest that you maybe consider going to either a public shelter or a friend's house, or again, a building outside of that area. It's basically a risk analysis, and we'll do everything we can in the future to help with that risk analysis. We work very closely with schools, for example, on that. But again, individuals, we strongly encourage, if you don't feel safe and you are close to the coast and you live in a one-story house or a building that's maybe made of wood or so forth, you really need to consider finding an alternative location for sheltering tonight. Thank you.
And Donna, can I just say, there is a map for flood-prone areas, and it's HTTPS. Let me just forward to you, and then you could just read it.
Okay, no worries.
Donna, just take this and read it out. And you can tell them. It's been put up by our comps team. They can just go on and check. But there's a map showing all of the flood-prone areas.
Okay, yeah, it's a flood-prone areas map that's in purple, and you can go to gov.ky /news/press release details for it. But if you go directly to gov.ky, you should be able to find it on there, as the comms team they're making sure that everyone is kept up to date with what's happening in a timely manner, and it's all right there. You don't have to go and search too far for the information that you may need.
Donna, if I may, I would just ask that we potentially take the next question, and then we'll get the comms team to have their appropriate website, because the question was, if a visitor who's not familiar with our flood zone areas and are staying, for example, in staycation home, and they don't know any difference and they decided to stay. It is important that they are able to go to a website, and I'm certain that we do have a map on the CaymanPrepared.ky website. What exactly /what? I'm not sure, but we will have that once we finish with the next question. So let's just move on to the other one, and I'm quite sure our comms team will have something up for persons to see for those who are visiting.
It's all right.
The next question from members of the public is, what punitive measures, actually this question is for the Commissioner of Police, what punitive measures are there for people who break the stay-in-place order? Commissioner Walton?
Well, while he's coming, I'll just preface it by saying a stay-in-place order is just that. It's different from a curfew. We're asking you to exercise your good will, but the commissioner will come, Commissioner, and he will, I'm sure, tell you that if they don't stay in place, he has ways and means for them to stay in place by scratch their back, and it's called curfew.
Okay. Commissioner
Okay,
Walton?
thank you very much, Donna, for the question. I think exactly what the Premier has said there. The option is available to me as a police commissioner under the Police Act, under Section 49, as far as cordons and curfews. Really, that's where my my ability to look at enforcing persons who are not complying with the requisite instructions to remain off the streets. We can impose cordons, we can impose curfews where there is a immediate threat to life. I can make the recommendation, or there's a public safety concern, and I can make a recommendation to the governor, onto the National Hazard Management Executive team, and then through to cabinet for to impose that condition of curfews. The actual penalty is a fine of $3,000 or 1 year or both. So it's quite, my recommendation is that persons are not to come out during the storm, to adhere to all the warnings that have been sent out, to stay indoors during this storm, because it's just not worth it. One, you're putting your life, others' lives, first responders' lives at risk. In addition to that, you face the potential of criminal charges and going to prison and a hefty fine of $3,000. So it's really not worth it.
Okay.
And more difficult to get in your waiver and visa to travel.
That's a very significant point, as the Premier mentioned, that there's a significant impact on persons' ability to travel, in particular to the United States.
Okay, thank you very much, Commissioner of Police. Another question from Wendy from CNS, as she's unable to reconnect with us. The question says, Premier has already said we can expect significant flooding. So given the significant loss of mangroves and natural barriers, as well as the unprecedented amount of hard structures that now cover the coastline, in particular over the last I think she meant to say 20 years, since Hurricane Ivan, does anyone know where the water will go?
No one in this room, and I would dare say no one in the Cayman jurisdiction, only the Heavenly Father himself. But what we do know is that as far as we can, we've done as much as we can to prepare. And yes, and in a hurricane, more mangroves would probably be destroyed if we had them around the entire periphery of all three islands. We saw in Hurricane Gilbert, especially in Little Cayman, they went way in and certainly did not have a colossal amount of concrete structures there. A couple of iguanas, yes, but not the concrete structures. So it shows that nature, we can take mitigating factors, and we have taken mitigating factors compared to many countries in the world. Once Hurricane Gilbert came, there were plant-a-tree efforts that will continue, and we do not encourage the illegal destruction of mangroves, but obviously it has to be a sensible balance, because we've long gone from where we were living in coconut trees and swinging off boat shades along the bay. We have made sure that we've built edifices that are strong, that can stand up, but that they're sensible, and that's why we continue to discourage persons from living in land-filled areas, but we have to take cognizance that quite a large percentage of Grand Cayman is what we brackers call swampland.
Premier, I'm so glad that question didn't come to me because I thought you said mangoes.
Oh,
You said mangoes. I was just going to say, yeah, I'm going to lose all my mangoes, but the question didn't come to me. So
Thank you for that. If there aren't any more questions, and I don't have any more from the public, I'd just like to reiterate part of Minister J.E. Banks's message that was read by the Honorable Sabrina Turner. Just for clarity and just to reassure the public, there's a section where he talked about utilities being fully operational. Electricity, for instance, a lot of people have questions because we're all scared that the electricity is going to go out and we're not going to be able to, power up our devices and all that sort of stuff. So CUC and Cayman Power and Light have activated their operation continuity plans and will keep power on, as Minister Jay said, as long as it's safe to do so. Water supply. Water Authority and Cayman Water Companies are prepared and will maintain water supply until tropical storm-force winds arrive or unless there are distribution network interruptions. Fuel. Rubis and Sol Home Gas and Clean Gas have sufficient stores of gasoline, diesel, and propane to last a few weeks. That's a good thing. It's all really good, actually. And telecommunications, those phones. All operators are functioning and will maintain service unless interrupted by Beryl. Off-Reg has engaged a Starlink, which has a crisis response team ready to fly in communications kits if needed. So that really a reiteration of the messaging from Minister for Infrastructure, the Honorable J.E. Banks.
Donna, can I also, if you would permit me, to give an update on our current shelter status, because I wouldn't want to give the impression that we're at capacity and there's some dire need that we're not prepared. I've been reliably informed by Danny that the Red Cross shelter, the status is open. The number of shelteries are 4-person sheltering, East End shelter, status open. Number of shelteries 12. Staff, police officers 2, Red Cross staff 3. John Gray High School, status open. Number of shelteries 34. Boddentown Primary School shelter, status open. The number of shelteries 15. Staff, police officers 1, Red Cross members 2. Clifton Hunter High School shelter, status open. Number of shelteries 12. Staff, volunteer staff 10. Northside shelter, status open. Number of shelteries, as when I got this message, 0. Staff, manager 1, police officer 2. I've also got a report from Mr. Mark Tibbetts on Cayman Rock. Ashton Raleigh Center has currently 133 shelteries. The West End School, 20. Multipurpose Hall, 34. I have not got an update yet for Little Cayman as they only open at 3 p.m.
Okay, thank you very much, Premier O'Connor-Connolly. Just one final question from Wendy, and then we're going to go for final words from any member of the panel that wants to speak, and then we're going to say goodbye for the evening. So Wendy has said that readers want to know what government can do in future to help workers in the private sector who were forced to go to work today in non-emergency or key roles, and some have not been released yet, making it impossible for them to properly prep if they didn't do it at the weekend. So any thoughts there for future plans for how government can assist or help to mitigate this issue?
I was actually going to answer a different question, but I'm going to answer that one as well. But before we do that, it's very important to address the question that was proposed before by a potential visitor who may be in a Airbnb. If they go to CaymanPrepared.ky and do in the search engine for flood zone mapping, you will be able to find a map that shows the area that you're in. As per that, it is something that we expect partnership with the private sector to do the right thing. Government never wants to be in a situation to mandate something. And obviously there'll be post-analysis with the governor and the premier to see whether or not we'd have to take more serious steps moving forward in the event that we have another hurricane. Hopefully we won't. But it's definitely one of those things you would take as a report post the storm.
Okay, any final words from member of the panel?
Well, maybe just to kick off 3 things, really. First of all, was just to say a massive thank you. Thank you for all the work that's already been done, and thank you in advance for all the work that is going to be done. And this really goes out to Danny Coleman and her team at Hazard Management. It goes out to all of our emergency services, the police, the regiment, the fire, our health services as well. You've all been amazing, and we would not be in this position without you. And indeed, everybody who's been working on infrastructure. We've talked quite a bit about infrastructure today, so really it's a massive recognition of how much people have gone above and beyond this week. Second thing to say is, please do continue to follow the communications channels, because staying informed is almost the same as staying safe, isn't it? We cannot guarantee how things are going to develop. We can prepare, but then we need to be flexible, and we need to know what's happening. And that goes for the all clear as well. So stay informed tonight, but stay informed tomorrow morning and into the hours of, when we get into tomorrow morning, 8, 9, 10, 11 o'clock. Don't go out unless it's safe. Make sure you really know what the situation is, because I think that will then just help us all. The mantra should be stay informed, stay vigilant, and that will mean we all stay safe. And please stay safe, everyone.
Okay, thank you, Governor Owen. Premier O'Connor.
Allow my colleagues to go and I'll do the sweeper.
Okay.
Thank you. In closing, I would just like to encourage all the Prospect and Red Bay residents to stay connected to official sources. We have a number of very active WhatsApp group chats, and we remain connected in that part. And for those persons who may be feeling, a little lonely or, just anxious about this, we are here, and through those mediums, we will remain connected as long as the infrastructure definitely allows us to. But I want to encourage persons to remember to look out for your neighbor. Just a simple, hi, how are you? I am accessible through those chats, but we understand as the weather continue to deteriorate that our mobility, and definitely from 6 o'clock, will be hindered. And again, publicly, I want to share the sentiments of Her Excellency the Governor, and just thank our first responders, our medical personnel. I mean, you're looking at even Her Majesty's Prison for all the pre-preparation that continues to be ongoing, our 911 emergency staff. And again, I know a lot of people don't realize the element and the continuity that the cadet plays into succession planning. They're actually very active and involved in our NEOC Center, and it just shows where we are growing from strength to strength. But for everyone who has come together in this mammoth of a task, for us being a resilient jurisdiction, I just want to wish all the best and God's blessings. Just keep safe, keep positive, and for those in the Red Bay Prospect community, we know we're connected as simply through WhatsApp. Thank you for this opportunity.
Okay, who's next? Minister Andre.
Thank you, Donna. So brief closing comments. Number one, I will associate my comments so far with the governor and also Minister Turner in terms of all the sentiments that have been expressed in terms of public services and coordination. Specifically, I'll add a brief addendum to the question that Andrell Harris posed in terms of financial services. Although the practitioners, the financial services practitioners, have their contingency plans and their work ethic, I also want to recognize the public officers who help support financial services and the regulators who will also be working to the bone to make sure that financial services is regulated and supportive. As a proof point, SEMA worked, the Monetary Authority worked with the banks to ensure that the ATMs were stocked with cash late into the evening as one proof point. So there's two sides of the ledger. They're the private sector practitioners, but also the public service officers who also assist and support and regulate financial services. And that leads me then also to, sometimes I call them the unsung heroes, Computer Services Department, eGov, and all the IT. All of the devices and all the way we keep connected in public services are to their hard work, and they work incredible hours, including the cyber security unit. So thank you all. God bless. And to my wife and children, I told you I'd be home by 3. I'm a little late. I am coming to finish prep before sunset. I'm coming. Dad's coming.
All right. Thank you, Minister Andre. Minister Bryan?
Thank you, Donna. I think I'm going to start exactly where Deputy Premier started off, to say to my wife, I apologize, and my kids. I did say I'll be home at 3 as well. I'm coming. I think it's been said so many times before, but I'm going to say it again because it needs to be said 1,000 times. This is the first time as a minister that I have experienced this severity and this level of togetherness working with our partnership with the civil service. And everybody who's listening, the next time you see a civil servant or a public servant, just say thank you, because they've worked hard. And I think the reason why we're going to get through this is because of preparedness. And sometimes you don't see how much work is being done behind the scenes. And like the Honorable Deputy Premier has said, the unsung heroes. But there's many of them. And I want to personally say thank you, because not all the time we can get the chance to say that. But on behalf of everybody else, we thank you. And just to make them feel good, just say thank you when you see them as well. In respect to our friends in Jamaica, our hearts and our prayers go out to them. Many of us have family members over there. Let us pray for them tonight just as much as we're praying for each other within our community. For those who are staying at home, the power may go out, the kids may be up. I encourage you to get a family game, sit down, talk to each other, because this is going to be a memorable experience, and kids are not going to ever forget it. Let it be something that is personal between you and your family, so when they remember it, they will always remember you. Last thing I'll say, or second to last thing I'll say, is be ready to clean up this country when we get the all clear. Mm-hmm. As the Minister for Tourism, beauty is our biggest thing next to our people. And we're going to need everybody engaged and be ready. Even those who are not working, there's going to be lots of work to do. So be ready to help us clean up in your neighborhoods, in our streets, in our towns, our tourist spots, everywhere, because we're going to need to do that. Lastly, from my constituents of Georgetown Central, it is important that I know that you are safe and that you are well. My number is 926-0005. 926-0005. I want to know that you're going to be okay, so please send me a WhatsApp and say, hi, my name is so-and-so, and I'm in your constituency of Georgetown Central, and I'm safe, because at the all clear, I want to call every single person, if the time allows, to make sure that you are all safe. With that being said, God bless and stay safe.
Thank you, Minister Bryan. And finally, our Honorable Premier.
Thank you, Don. First and foremost, I want to thank you for coming and do as you usually do, bring a smile and even dire impending natural disasters. I mean, who would not get relaxed when they see you appear? And I'm not saying that to flatter you or to pontificate. It really does help to see a familiar face that have been through quite a number of ordeals and still has a smile in your face. I want to certainly thank Her Excellency the Governor for the endearing partnership that we've fostered. And in times like this, it brings the best and the worst out of you. And I can certainly say, thus far, it has brought the best out of everyone I've had an opportunity to work with, both on the political side as well as the civil servant side and in the wider community as well. When it comes to weather's unknown, but one thing we do know that when we stick together, and I keep saying that, the stickability and the level that we extend our love. This is now an occasion, Cayman, where we can put the money where our mouth are and really let the whole world know that we as human beings still have some optimism. Obama liked to say there's an audacity for optimism, and I believe this is our time to showcase to the world. I've been getting calls, I'm sure the governor and other members all around the world from we've been contacted by news agencies, all about people want to know what's going to happen to Cayman, perhaps maybe for different reasons, but they're genuinely concerned. I can say two things, and I'll close. When I had the meeting with my CARICOM leaders, and actually those, I know quite a number of them personally, it was heart-wrenching to hear the personal revelations from Prime Minister Mia, from Prime Minister Ralph Gonzalez, from Rotley from Trinidad, and the other ones that were on there, Mitchell from Grenada, for them to just say what they had recently been through. And those of you that know Ralph, he's no pushover from St. Vincent and the Grenadine. And at the end, he asked our president from Guyana, who now holds the chair could he have another opportunity to speak? And you could see that he was full of emotions and said, look, Cayman, Jamaica, this is nothing to play with. He spent the storm in the Prime Minister's house in his jurisdiction, and he said there was a time he thought his entire roof was going to go. And I'm saying that not to instill fear, but to tell you, when 6 o'clock come, stay in place and do what you can do responsibly so we can get through this safely and together. I took the opportunity this morning to ring my friend and colleague, Honorable PM Holness in Jamaica, and Manley once said that, you know, economists have made us partners, geography has made us neighbors, and politics have still made us allies. And I thought it was important to reach out to him. Seeing our history, we've only detached our umbilical cord back in 1960-61. Everyone was, for the most part, have some connection. For me, from my mother's side, my grandmother was from Montego Bay. From my father's side, my grandmother's buried in Maypin. And so we have that close connectivity and affinity to our Jamaicans. They have come and helped build our country in various capacities, and they're still doing that. And I got the assurance that they were prepared as they could be. I'm happy as I've checked the weather. Like I said, it seemed to have taken a little jog to the south. I did not go directly over Kingston, which was a fear because the airport is in that vicinity. But I've given the assurance, and I've said it to you, as I said to him, we are not possession of colossal or infinite amount of gold bars, neither have I discovered any oil wells in the Cayman. But one thing as such as I have, I give unto you, and I asked him for the opportunity if I could pray with him, because I'm not going to pass up that opportunity. And I'm so happy to report that he said yes. And the Holy Spirit helped him. We had a good prayer, and I can tell you, the principle of being still and know that God is God, I could hear his voice, and he just graciously, as the leader of Jamaica, said, thank you very much. And I think that when we can reach out, even in our circumstances, he still had the time to say, we're standing here, whatever help we can give the Cayman, we're ready to give. And that has come from around the Caribbean. Governor has said from the UK, from private citizens. I know when I did my law practice, people are watching Cayman. Cayman is important for a number of reasons. Let us do our part and continue to be cooperative and responsive. And again, I emphasize we'll get through this together. For those in the sister islands, continue to send the videos in as long as you can have that conduit to send it. Stay and listen to Commissioner Walton's police over there. I don't want to hear any reports sitting about his lockdown except in your house. God bless you. We'll continue to report to you, and I have every confidence that we will get through this together. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Premier O'Connor-Connolly, and to the other panelists, as well as to you, the public, and the media for joining us today. If you didn't have the opportunity to watch this press briefing, you still have the opportunity to do that by going to the Cayman Islands Government YouTube channel on demand. I just want to say bye-bye to everyone, and of course, stay safe.